All right. Hello, everyone. Michelle here. Welcome back to another session of mobility. Today's focus, we're going to be looking at some, of course, mobility, but we're going to be focusing a little bit more on that activation and strengthening, as well as that stability with these movements. So a couple things before we get started. Just make sure if you've got a mat, we will be spending some time down on the floor. And then there are a couple stretches and movements that I like to have some support. So, I mean, I've got my workout bench in the living room here. But if you've got like a wall or a doorway, that's perfectly fine to use as well too. And then the other thing too, I would encourage you all to have is if you have a little bit of an elevation. So whether that's stacking, whether it's a box, a stool, some textbooks that are sturdy, or yoga block, which I'm going to grab mine here, but just something to give you some height because we will be working on some knee stability with a movement coming on a little bit later, okay? And then just a little heads up for the activity code for those of you watching the recording and for those of you that are live. The activity code is mobility 53 for today, okay? So great, okay, we'll get started. And then another thing that I always like to mention is just go at your own pace. Like we're all gonna look a little different in terms of our range of motion and our flexibility. So there's no right way or wrong way, right? Just listen to your body, and I'm gonna make some cues so that you can make sure that you get into that safely, okay? And if you hear any snap, crackle, pops, again, that's normal, it's gonna happen. Sometimes our joints can get a little stiff and creaky, but just again, if it's not causing you any, pain, then just work with it, listen to your body, and if it does cause you some pain, then ease off that range of motion. Okay, all right, we're going to start off with a warm up, and then we will get into those strengthening and stability exercises, and then we'll spend some time doing some static stretches at the end. Okay, so we're going to start off, and we're going to be spending a lot more time with like our ankles, our feet, our hips, and that mobility there for today, okay? So we'll start off with just some hip circles. No, we're not going to start a dance party here, but just loosening it up. We're going to try going one way, and then we will switch and go the other way. You can start small and gradually make that circle bigger. Just loosen up those hips, especially if you've been working all morning or all day whenever you're watching this recording. Nice way to loosen that up. Let's switch to the other way. So we're going to come back around here. Good. I want to make sure that we're leading with the hips and not that upper body. We're just letting everything flow with the movement here. Good. Let's try 2 more big circles. Last one. Good. Now let's make our way down to our ankles here. So what we're going to do is just stick one foot out, and we're going to start making some circles with those ankles. So I'll back up so I can make sure that I'm all on the screen. So I'm starting clockwise, and again, you probably will feel some cracks in this one. I know at least I do with a lot of my ankles. They can get definitely a little bit creaky down there. So just again, work with the range, make it bigger. And let's switch and go the other way. And we're going to start off with just some simple little movements for our feet and our ankles. And this is really important because this is the foundation of all the big movements that we typically get into with exercise, right? So it's a good way to bring some awareness with some of the exercises that we will be doing so that we feel more grounded in these movements. Good, shake it out. And let's try the other side here. So again, I'm starting clockwise, but you could pick away anyway, stick with it, work with it, and then we will switch that rotation. And I like to, again, hold on to something here. We don't have to worry about balancing or stabilizing right now. We just want that control and the focus in that ankle rotation. Good. And when you're ready, switch the other way. Oh, Max, Max, oh my gosh, he just jumped up right on my laptop. Keep going with those circles. I knew he was going to do that. I had a gym bag right on top, and he's been sitting on it all morning. So I scooched him out of the way. And I saw him just jump up and head right there, and I knew he was going for the laptop. All right, good. All right, let's shake it out. Good. Okay, so we're going to go into a couple foot drills. And again, these seem really simple and easy, but they might be a little bit more challenging than you think, okay? So we're going to focus again, plant those feet nice and stable. We're about hip width apart. And our first drill, what we're going to do is just scrunch the toes in. So picture there's like a cloth or like a sock or something underneath, and we just want to curl those toes in. So really try to extend them and then grip that ground and pull in. If you're on carpet, it might feel a little weird. I've got the mat, so it feels a little bit smooth. It's really nice to do this on like a wooden floor. And if you actually have a towel, you can practice kind of scrunching it up and pulling that towel even closer. So again, our toes are our toes are very overlooked in a lot of movements too. And it's, again, our foundation. We want to make sure that we feel stable and strong down below. So this, again, gives us awareness to where our feet are putting that pressure and how we can sort of disperse it more evenly and train all parts of our foot. Good. All right. Okay, that was a simple one. Next toe drill here. We're going to plant our toes, and the goal here is just to try to lift the big toe up. So this is hard. I'm going back and forth with these and just trying to get my big toe to lift and try to keep the other ones down. It takes a little bit of concentration. You might find that this is really simple for you. Some of you might find it's a little bit more challenging. We've got a couple others that are a little bit more challenging than this one. So again, just lifting that toe up. Let's try 2 more on each side. But again, hopefully this will feel a little bit more connected into the roots of our feet, into the ground, so that when we go into our big performance lifts, if we're at the gym at other times, we'll feel a little bit more stable. And you could do this before your workouts. Really great thing to add in. Okay. Next up, we're going to try to keep that big toe lifted, down, and then lift the other 4 toes. Our small little toes there. This one's hard. I don't know if anyone else can get this at home, but this is the one I always struggle with. And that's okay, right? We're just bringing awareness to it. Yeah, that big toe just wants to lift up. Okay, you can keep practicing that if you'd like. If you want to try something else, you can try the piano. And this is where we kind of lift one side up at a time and plant it back down. You might be like, wow, my toes don't move very coordinatedly, if that's even a word, but I always find that it's kind of a good awareness tool for myself. Good. Good. All right, and even too, what you can do here next, another toe drill. We'll give you one more, and then we'll move on to some ankle work. But if you want, you can try to lift all of them up and spread all your toes apart and then plant them back down, right? So that gives us a bigger base for the movements that we're in. So lift and down. Take them all apart. Try one more on each side. Good. And I'll tell you a little something too. When we're doing, a lot of movements, typically our shoes, you see a lot of shoes with a lot of thick soles. And a lot of times most shoes go up at the end, right? So we don't really get that full, support from the toes in a lot of our movements. So finding a shoe that's really flat for training, if you're doing big compound lifts, can be a really effective way that you can get a little bit more stability as well. Okay, or just take your shoes off. All right. Okay, so we're going to go on to our ankles now. So we're just going to do a little bit of strengthening there. So we're going to go up into a calf raise. So what we're going to do is just come up to the balls of our feet. We're going to squeeze the calf and then come slowly back down. Squeeze, try to keep that control. You can hold on to something if you need. We're just getting the lower part of our legs activated here. Because again, our ankles are really important. Our feet, our toes, that ankle stability, that's really the grounding force that sort of stabilizes everything that we do, right? Okay, trying 5 more here. Ooh. 1 more. Good. All right. Okay, this is where you're going to need a wall next. Okay, we're going to stretch out the calf because a lot of times, again, it could be due to our ankle flexion and our flexibility that limits us getting into like our squat or sitting down, etc. And also could be tight calf. So we're going to stretch out our calf. So what we're going to do is put that foot closer to the wall. The closer your heel is, the more of a stretch you're going to get. So play around with that. And what we're going to do here is instead of leaning forward, we're going to push our hips towards the wall to really get that deep calf stretch. Okay, and we're going to go for 30 seconds here. So just holding, feeling that release. As you start to ease into that, you might want to come in a little bit more. So finding that post. Nice neutral spine. We want to be leaning in or arcing over, or else we'll lose that tension. So just pushing the hips towards. Good. Take it out. All right, let's try the other side here. Again, heel coming close to the wall. That ball of the foot's up there, and we're pushing the hips in and just stretching out the other side here. We've got 30 seconds. Okay, and 3, 2, 1. Good. Okay. All right, we're going to start getting into some of our lower body strengthening exercises, okay? So we're going to start off in that squat position. I know you're like, oh my gosh, I didn't come to mobility to squat. But again, really, that's really what mobility is making sure we feel comfortable in these functional movements that we get to see every day. Okay, so what we're going to do, I'll show you, and then you can jump in with me. We're going to be doing 15 reps per side, and then you will need that elevation for the next one, okay? So I'm going to have that handy because we're just going to be going through 3 different exercises. And then we'll start back from the top and try a couple steps of that, okay? So we're gonna squat, and then we're gonna pivot from that foot and reach. So we're rotating, okay? Squat down, hips back, and then we're just pivoting from that foot. We don't wanna lock it in, or else we're gonna kind of just twist that spine. So we wanna keep it fluid. 5, 6, 7, 10. Good. Next one, we're going to come up to that block or that set of books, whatever you have here, and just a small elevation. What we're going to do here is point that toe up, and it's a small movement. We're just going to tap down. So we're going to try 10 of these, 2, and this is called the Poliquin step down. So it's a really short range, but we really hit that the VMO, so the vastus medialis right there. So the really inner part of the quad, which usually gets quite weak because the rest of our quad takes over, okay? So this is really good for knee stability, okay, and training that inner quad, okay? So we're gonna try 10. I just did a couple reps there, but it will go 3, 4, pushing the hips back a bit. 'Good, switching to the other side, 10 on the other. One more for me. Good. Again, so feeling that in the inner part of the quad. Okay, from there, our last exercise of this set is we're going into our single leg RDLs, okay, our median deadlift. So we're going to keep a slight bend in the knee. We're going to drive that other knee up and then hinge back, kicking the leg back, feeling the stretch into our hamstrings, into our glutes, but very great for hip stability. We want to focus here on keeping those hips parallel with the ground. So we're not opening up with this. We just want to keep them parallel and stacked on top of the ground. There's 5, 4, 3, 1. Good. And we're going to switch sides. So other side now, kicking that leg back. Slight bend in the knee that's planted. If you want to challenge, you could do it without that support. That'll give you a little bit of an extra stability challenge. And there's 10. Good, shake it out. We're going back from the top into that squat rotation. So squatting back, we're rotating for 10. There's 2. Maybe you're trying to get a little lower from before. You might notice that you got a little bit lower than you typically would with a squat, just from that ankle and calf work that we did before. Last one, good. Into that Poliquin step down. So again, that shorter range here. Excellent knee stability. So we've got hip stability, knee stability here. One more. Good. And you can make it challenging with a slighter, higher height from our platform. But you don't want it too high where you're getting a ton of knee flexion and coming down into like a single leg squat. You just want that shorter range, because what happens is when we get more knee flexion and get lower, we start to work the outer part of the quad. So we want to focus on that stability, because most of the time, if you've got knee pain, well, I shouldn't say most of the time, but if you've experienced knee pain, it could be due to that weaker inner part of the quad, which we don't typically always train in this capacity. Good. Back to those single leg RDLs. And we're going to do one more round of all of that after we finish these. Nice long spine. Make sure it's neutral. We're not arcing or rounding. Good. And switching to the other side. Again, we might be at different paces here, and that's fine. Check those toes. Remember, we brought awareness to that. So through the movements, make sure that those are working to help stabilize these activation and strengthening movements. Good. All right, back to the top, last round here. So squat rotation. Good. Last one, shake it out. Back to those step downs. Nice work, everyone. Ooh, my legs are starting to feel a little toasty. Don't get me wrong, I love training some heavy weights, but even just sometimes these simple exercises that we can kind of focus a little bit more on that stability and mobility could be nice and challenging. And if you lose balance, that's okay. I always say when we lose balance, we train it, right? We're trying to catch ourselves, get back to that stable ground. So if you lose it, you're training it. Good, last RDL here. Woo. And Good. That was our last one. Okay, shake it out. All right, we can come on down to the ground now. I'm just going to adjust my camera, grab some water as well. Okay, we're going to do some core activation, stability, and mobility. Okay, I'm going to grab some water and we'll get started. So we've got a couple different exercises here. Okay, so we're going to start off with like my little cheat sheet. Keeps me on track sometimes. Okay, we are going to start off on our back and do some floor bridges, so our glute bridges from the ground. We're going to do 15 repetitions of that. We're then going to go into our dead bug, which is our core activation. I'll show you as we go through, and our windshield wipers. Okay, so strengthening more of that rotation part of the movement in that thoracic spine. Okay, so let's get started with that. So starting on our back. And we're going to go through this 3 times, just like we did with our legs. Okay, so 15 reps here, and then we'll go into our dead bugs and then our windshield wipers. So come on up, full extension, showing you from the side. So we want to lift with the glutes here. Our heels are going to be just beneath our knees. So if our feet are way out here, we're going to work a lot more hamstrings. Okay, if they're too close, we're going to be working more quads. We want to hit the glutes, which is really important for that core stability. Okay, if we've got weak glutes, we typically can experience quite a bit of back pain. So we want to strengthen that so that we can improve that stability and strengthen our core. Keeping the chin tucked. So full hip extension at the top as you open up that pocket. Five more. And last one, we'll come down to our back. The goal here with our dead bugs is our hands are over top of our shoulders, our knees are on top of our hips. And we want here to try to keep that back as flat as we can and extend one leg and the opposite arm. So we're going to do 10 each side. Again, a lot harder than it looks. Some coordination as well. You get to train your mind. Two more each side, or one more each side. Last one. Good. All right, come on down. Okay, from there, okay, our arms are going to come up to that cactus. So they're going to be at 90-90. And then what we're going to do is keep those knees bent. We're going to go side to side. So we've got 10 repetitions. 1, we're dropping them down. 5. 2 more. Last one. Good. All right, back to the top, starting with those glute bridges. 15. Ten, 5 more for me. And last one. Good. All right, I'm coming down into my dead bugs. So again, one leg and the opposite arm. And you're trying to keep that spine completely flat to the ground. So we don't want any arcing. That's where it makes this movement more challenging. See, a little coordination. Nice and controlled. Last one, for me at least. Again, go at your own pace. You know your body best, so keep that control, right? We don't want to swing through and fly through all these movements. We want to keep it nice and steady, controlled, and intentional. Oh, I didn't even do my windshield wipers. I just switched right back to glute bridges. Don't mind me, I'm going back. That was 10. Good. Now we'll start back at those glute bridges. The last round. Good. Hopefully you have some music on at home. I find that it's always hard to kind of hear the speaker or the microphone when I have the music on. So you can pick your own tunes. The quality is probably a bit better too. Good. All right. One more for me here. Try to keep the upper back flat on the ground when you do these windshields, okay? We really want to focus on strengthening that rotation. So if we start to lift that upper body off the ground, then it's just kind of following the movement and we straighten out. So we want to keep that rotation. And it might feel a little tight, but that's okay. We're kind of moving it in a gentle way while still adding a little bit of challenge. Good. All right. I'll make sure to give you some time to all finish that last round. Okay, grab some water. And we've got about I got about 8 minutes to do some stretching. That's perfect. Okay, so I'm going to just get my timer out so I can make sure we're going to hold this because we're going to hold each stretch for a minute. Okay, so what we're going to do first is into our hip flexor stretch. Okay, so this is our static stretching portion of the mobility class where we get to really hold these movements. We did a lot of like dynamic fluid exercises. So now we're just going to stretch it out. Okay, so 1 minute on the clock and we're going to go into a hip flexor stretch. So we're just going to come into that half kneeling. Okay, and we really want to try to tuck that pelvis in so we open up that pocket. Okay, I find it's nice when we start to activate the glutes as well too, which we've already kind of prepped and primed, but we want to really kind of come into that. We don't want to come so much that we start to arc that back. Okay, we want to keep that pull into that hip flexor. Okay, so opening up, and we're just going to stretch that. If you want a little deeper of a stretch, you could always grab that back foot, or if you've got a scarf that can help support it if that's a little too much. We can grab that and get a little quad stretch into there as well. So the front part of our leg. Good. We've got about 10 seconds here. Whew. I just totally lost that. Okay, and 3, 2, 1. We'll switch to the other leg, holding that for a minute here. So again, same thing that we saw before. I'm gonna go front view. Okay, finding that pocket, opening that up, and just holding. Good. And again, if you want to add a little deeper of a stretch, you'll feel a little bit more into the hip flexor, but you'll also get a ton of quad by grabbing that back foot. So I'll just pivot and show you. About halfway. Breathe. We hold in our breath. We're just restricting that stretch a little more. So really breathe out. Be focused on that deep belly breathing too. So filling up the abdomen, letting it rise to your chest and coming out. Good. 5 seconds. Nice. Okay. Next one, we're going to come down to the ground onto our back. We're going to stretch out our glutes and our piriformis. So really just kind of the outside here. So we're going to come in, so crossing one leg over that opposite knee, and then we're just going to fish through that hole and grab our other leg. Okay, so we're just going to hold that, and we can use the other elbow to sort of prop our knee out to get a little deeper of a stretch here. We're just holding this for a minute. I like to add a little bit of ankle rolls into these. Nice stretch in the glute. You can always bring it closer to you to get a deeper stretch. "15 seconds. And then we'll switch to the other side. Good. Let's switch it over, crossing the opposite leg over that opposite knee, fishing through, grabbing that, getting a nice deep glute stretch. We're halfway, 30 seconds more. "10 seconds. And good, come on up. All right, we're gonna swing ourselves up and we're gonna finish off with our 90-90s, okay? So what we're gonna do here is have our back leg at 90 degrees, okay, our front leg at 90 degrees, and we're just gonna hinge forward. So we are gonna do this for a minute, but I want you to just take it where it has to go. Like you can like hold that static stretch and just hang out here, okay? Or you can reach in front and get a real deep stretch, or you can kind of move it around, right? So again, we're all gonna be a little different. So, and even too, I like to come out to the side to get a little bit more of my QL joint that really attaches our upper body to our hip, and it can get quite tight. So I find that feels nice. But again, scoop it around, just go where you'd like. This is your mobility time. So do what you need and what's best for your body right now. So get into it, play around with a couple of those options, and you can find out what's going to work best for you. Okay, we've got 10 seconds here. Very good. Let's switch to the other side. We got 1 minute. And we've got 15 more seconds here. And 3, 2, 1. Good. All right, shake it out, do whatever you need. All right, everyone, thank you so much for joining or watching the recording. I hope you have a beautiful day and hopefully it gets a little warmer out there. I got Christmas again. Anyway, all right, stay wonderful and hopefully we'll see you soon. Bye.